Today, we're jumping right into a global crisis that is literally growing by the second: sovereign debt. We're going to break down the critical outcomes from a major international conference in Geneva that's trying to get a handle on this massive challenge.
So let's just start with the one number that really sets the stage. In 2024, global public debt, that's the money governments owe, it hit an all-time high of $102 trillion. I mean, it's a figure that's almost impossible to wrap your head around, but it's the reality we're dealing with.
And what's really wild is that this wasn't some slow and steady climb. It was an explosion. You had this perfect storm, right? The economic shock from the pandemic, which was then followed by interest rates just soaring, and it's pushed this number into the stratosphere. This is an urgent problem for everybody. Okay, so here's how we're going to tackle this. First, we'll get a sense of just how big this crisis is. Then we'll look at how the world is responding, including a new thing called the Seville Forum. We'll also cover the bigger picture with the Geneva Consensus. And then we'll wrap it all up with the key takeaways you're absolutely going to need for your exams.
Right, so let's dig into that $102 trillion figure. Because, a number that huge can feel a bit abstract. The real impact, the true weight of it, is felt by billions of people, especially in the most vulnerable parts of our world. And this chart really tells a story. While the debt is a global problem, the burden is not shared equally, not even close. Developing countries are carrying a massive $31 trillion of that total. And get this, last year alone, they paid an incredible $921 billion, not on the debt itself, but just on the interest. And that leads to the real human cost. This is where the numbers on a page become a devastating reality. For 3.4 billion people, we're talking nearly half the planet, their governments are now spending more money paying interest to creditors than they are on building hospitals or running schools. Just think about that choice for a second. So this growing crisis, this impossible choice that so many countries are facing, it really set the stage for a critical global meeting in Geneva, where the world came together to try and find a way forward. Okay, so this table gives you the basic facts, but look past the dates and the official theme for a minute. The most important detail on this slide is the attendance. A record 170 countries showed up. That's not just a statistic, that's a massive signal of global alarm. It's the world recognizing that this has to be dealt with together. And to really get what this conference was about, you need to know the host, UNCTAD. Now, for any exam, this definition is crucial. It's the UN's main group for trade and development, and its whole mission is to make the global economy fairer for developing nations. They're the ones really pushing for a better system. Now let's get into one of the most exciting things that came out of Geneva, because this is where we start to see the shape of a real, tangible solution. The big headline, the real breakthrough moment, was the launch of something called the Sevilla Forum on Debt. This is a brand new initiative, and it was basically purpose-built to tackle this crisis head-on, and hopefully move us all beyond just talking and into actually doing something. So what is it exactly? Well, it's an initiative led by Spain, and it's got the backing of two UN heavy hitters, UNCTAD and UNDSA. But the key phrase here is multi-stakeholder hub. What that really means is that for the first time, they're getting everyone into the same room, the countries that borrow, the creditors that lend, the big institutions, everyone, to try and find some common ground. Its mission is pretty simple, but it's really powerful. It's built on 3 key steps. Number 1, start an honest conversation. 2, act as a trusted bridge between the lenders and the borrowers. And 3, and this is the real game changer, actually track what happens next to hold everyone accountable and make sure these commitments lead to real action. And this quote from the UN Secretary General, Antonio Guterres, just nails it. He says it's about 2 things. 1, keeping the political spotlight shining on the debt problem so the world can't just look away. And 2, building the actual technical roadmaps to make reform happen. It's about having the political will and then creating a practical way. Okay, for everyone out there studying for exams, listen up. Here is a perfect little mnemonic to lock this concept in. To remember the key features of the Sevilla Forum, just think of the word SUM. S for Spanish-led, U for UN-supported, and M for multi-stakeholder. SUM. Super simple, super effective. So the Sevilla Forum was a huge step, no doubt about it. But it's really important to understand that it's just one piece of a much, much bigger puzzle that was put together in Geneva. And that bigger puzzle is called the Geneva Consensus. You can think of this as the Grand Agreement. It's the main declaration that was adopted by all 195 member states. This is the official roadmap for the whole organization, and it's aiming for nothing less than a just and sustainable economic order. And you can see from these pillars, the ambition here is massive. Yes, debt is a huge piece of it, but the consensus also gets into reforming how investment works, managing the digital age, giving extra support to the least developed countries or LDCs, and even making our global supply chains stronger for the future. Now, this is a really critical point to get, especially if you're studying this. The Geneva Consensus actually created two different but related platforms for debt. You've got the Sevilla Forum, which we know is multi-stakeholder, meaning the creditors are there too. But it also created the Borrowers Forum, which is a dedicated space just for developing countries to meet, get on the same page, and build up their collective strength. So one is about dialogue with everyone, the other is about solidarity among borrowers. All right, let's bring it all together. We're going to boil this all down into the essential facts and concepts you really need to remember. Think of this as your high-impact revision guide. First up, the key terms and institutions. Pay close attention to the bolded keywords here. They are your ticket to a perfect definition. So you need to know UNCTAD 16, the Sevilla Forum, remember our sum mnemonic, the big picture Geneva Consensus, the separate Borrowers Forum, and of course, the role of UNDSA. And next, the numbers that tell the story. You have to have that headline figure down, $102 trillion. Understand the specific burden on developing countries, and maybe most importantly, remember that staggering human impact on 3.4 billion people. And finally, that record attendance number, which shows you how serious the world is taking this. So we'll end with this question because it really gets to the heart of everything. We've got the forms now, we've got the consensus, we have a roadmap on paper, but is there going to be enough political will to actually reform a global debt system that everyone agrees is long overdue for a change? And why does this matter? Well, because the answer will decide whether those 3.4 billion people get schools and hospitals or just bigger bills to pay.